Hi guys, hope you guys are doing good. We're back with another video, and today I'm going to be showing you a very simple strategy, but this strategy, for you to be able to apply it the right way, you will need to be very selective, right? So what I'm going to go through is a bunch of H4 charts, and within this H4 charts, all we are looking for, remember, as I said, we need to be very selective, right? We need to be very selective. That means you will not find this on every pair every week, right? Remember, in trading, you do not need to trade 500 times a week, right? You do not need to trade 500 times a week. 1 to 3 trades can be all you need in a week if you focus on these H4 charts. So just to quickly go over this, I'm going to show you what I'm going to be looking for on these H4 charts, right? I'm going to show you what I'm going to be looking for on these H4 charts. So I'm just going to use this area right here to annotate, right? So within the H4 chart, what we are looking for is we are looking for a peak formation, right? The best peak formations that we can look for are M formations, right? The best peak formations that we can look for are M formations. After an M formation, what we look for after an M formation is we look for first level, right? We want to see the second level, and then we want to see the third level. So all we're going to be interested in trading right here is the pattern 1, 2, 3. We need to see these levels clearly, right? So when you have clearly identified a peak or a peak reset, which usually happens at the 200 EMA, the next trade that you should be looking for is the trade that goes with you into the second level. In this case, after the first level, we usually have a 1350 crossover, where we have the 1350 crossover. I'm just going to do it very roughly, but I'll show you on the chart, right? After a 1350 crossover, what we wait for now is a 50 bounce, which happens on the 50 EMA. And then we continue into the next level. So this is what we're going to be looking for in the H4, because we know that as soon as we get such opportunities, right, we'll be able to bag a very good number of pips, right? And then as we go into the third level, this is when we have the 50 and 200 crossover. After the 50 and 200 crossover, what we want to see is a bounce off that 200 EMA. So do you guys see that within this pattern, this 3-level pattern, all we are looking for right here is 3 setups, right, or 3 trades, right? So let's start with EURUSD on the H4, right? And we're going to try count the levels. Remember, your level counts are very important. So we can all see that we had a peak formation down here, right? Peak formation. Remember, this is your H4 time frame. After the peak formation, we had 1 week of rise, right? 1 week of rise, right? So within this 1 week of rise, what do we want to see? We want to see if we are going to get that 1350 crossover. Remember, these types of trades need you to be very patient, right? These types of trades need you to be very patient. So if we can go to the H1 time frame, this is what we are going to see, right? Do you see what we mean? We had a peak formation. Let me just remove this, right? Or let me just keep it there. We had a peak formation down here. You can see a nice, not really a good looking W formation, right? And then we had a 1350 crossover. And in this case, we had a peak formation just below the 50 EMA, right? Remember, these trades will play out like this most of the time, where if this is your 50 EMA after a 1350 crossover, and if the market is moving up, right, what you're going to have is you're going to have a nice bounce off the 50 EMA, or what you're going to have is you're going to have a trap below and then a continuation to the upside. But what will keep you in the game is understanding your order flow. What do I mean by understanding your order flow? If we can zoom in right here, right, let me just find it right here. If we can zoom in right here, we can see that as the market moved away from this area, we had a rally, base rally, meaning this was our decision point, or as some people might call it, an order block, right? And as you can see, after the 1350 crossover, this trap was initiated on this day. How was the trap initiated? You can see we had a false move for this day, right? We had a false move for this day, went and collected, right, those orders on that order block, right? And then this is when we had another long sustained run of price, right? So these are the type of things you need to look for, guys. One, you need to understand where the market is. So in this case, we can see that we are level 1 into a consolidation, another week of rise into consolidation, and then we had the last week of rise, right? And as you can see, after the last week of rise, we had a peak formation, right? So remember what I said, guys. After a 5200 crossover, right, after a 5200 crossover, the next high probable trade you need to wait for is a bounce off your 200 EMA, right? That is where your resets usually occur, right? So in this case, you can see after these moves to the upside, this was basically 1 month of rise, which was also coming off a reset. Do you see that? When the cycle started down here, level 1, level 2, level 3, as you can see, we had a 5200 crossover all the way down here, right? And as you can see, we had a reset here. This was now in the daily time frame, right? So these are the setups you need to look out for. Yes, they take time, right? But they will definitely bring in that money, right? So this reset right here, this reset that we had right here, what was going to give you the confidence, right? What was going to give you the confidence to wait for such a reset? We have our 5200 crossover. We can see that this is still going to the upside. In this case, our supply zone would be all the way up here, right? So we know that price still has to reach this area, right? Price still has to move up to this area, right? There you go, right? There you go. So in this case, as you can see, the only reason why price gave us a reset there was because of this order block right here. As you can see, look at how price moved away from this area previously. Look at that momentum away from it, right? Look at that momentum away from it. And we also had a very good price approach coming to the 200 EMA in the same region. And then look at how price then left the same area. Now, after you have been given a peak reset, what do you need to wait for? After a peak reset, if you are not sure or if you have missed the peak reset, you wait for a 1350 crossover, and your next high probable trade is your bounce off the 50 EMA or a trap below. Remember what I said? What usually happens is you've got the EMA running here, it bounces off, or it will trap below and continue to the upside. But what will keep you in the game is understanding where your order blocks are. Now, if you zoom in right here, you can see that we had a rally, base rally right here, right? And that is where the orders were collected, and look at how price moved away from that. The same reaction we got here, although it staggered a bit here, but you can see that's the same movement that we had to the upside, right? So these are the type of things you need to keep an eye on, and these are the type of things you need to know, guys, right? So moving over to another time frame, to another pair, sorry, H4. We're going to look for the same thing, and as you can see, what we had here, we had a nice reset, right? After this nice reset, what you need to wait for, a 1350 crossover. If you had missed the reset, as you can see, we had level 1, right? Another week of drop, right? Remember, after a 1350 crossover, the most high probable trade you can take is a bounce off the 50 EMA after a 1350 crossover. And as you can see, we didn't really reach it, but this was not a bad trade at all, because if you can look at this in the H1, this is what you had. Do you see that all the market was doing, it was riding that 50 EMA, right? These are your most powerful EMAs, right? Riding that 50 EMAs, 50 EMA, 50 EMA, trap moves around that 50 EMA. Of course, there were some stop losses above that area, and then we were just riding that 50 EMA. So if you can understand the market context, you will be able to execute your trades very well. But in this case, since we can say we did not really have an interaction with the 50 EMA after the 1350 crossover, the only interaction with the 50 EMA that is clear is this one, right? And what was going to make this one interesting, it was also at a base area, drop, base, drop, and as you can see, this is where we had the beginning of that momentum, right? So this was a nice pin above the 50 EMA, which is the 200 EMA in your H1, which is a reset. And as you can see, we had a nice type of pattern, right? We had a very nice type of pattern at that 200 EMA, right? Now, if you're going to take this trade after 15 minutes, this is what you had, right? A nice half a Batman, right? And your trade was going to be perfect right there. That was going to be a nice entry point, right? So this is what you look for in the H4. Of course, now you need to understand your market context, right? So let us look at GU, right? Let us look at GU. Now on GU, this is what we have, right? And as you can see, we've got a nice reset off this area, right? A nice reset of this area, as you can see. Nice reset of that area. Also a half a bad type looking pattern, right? A nice reset. So after the reset, remember what I said, when you have identified a reset, if you have missed that reset or you're not sure about that reset, what do you need to wait for? You need to wait for the 1350 crossover, right? In this case, there you go. You had your 1350 crossover. The market did play around this area, 1350 crossover. You had a very nice move to the upside, right? A nice move to the upside. What do you wait for after a 1350 crossover? You wait for a 50 bounce, which is your 200 EMA bounce, which is a reset, right? So there you go. A very nice trade. And where did this trade happen? It happened at a base area. Right, and as you can see, if you were able to catch that trade with a nice peak formation, nice W formation, as you can see, it was a very nice one, right? You'd be up a very good number of pips, right? So it is not about trading everything, right? It is not really about trading everything, guys. You need to know your setups and you need to master your setups. That's it. You see, here's another thing, right? 5200 crossover, right? After that, we've got a trap below, which is a nice W formation, and off it went, right? But remember, it is not every pair that is going to be clear. For me, I don't force any trade. If I see that something doesn't make sense to me, I will not force any trade, because once you start forcing trades, that is when you're going to start over trading, and that is when you're going to find yourself doing unnecessary stuff. So look at what we have. We have a reset right here, clearly identified. These resets usually occur on your 200 EMAs. After the reset, we have a 1350 crossover. After the 1350 crossover, what do we anticipate? A bounce off the 50 EMA, and there we go. We've got a nice trap below the 50 EMA, and as you can see, this trade was an amazing trade, over 180 pips that you're going to bag over these past 2 weeks. We also had the same bounce this previous week that we're coming from, a nice bounce off that area with very good looking PA, right? So guys, it's all about being selective. It's not about trading everything. A lot of people are confused, right? They think they know what they're doing when they don't, right? So here's a nice reset that we had, right? So it's all about you sitting down over the weekend, be selective, and trust me, you will be able to grab very good trades. All right, guys, thank you for joining me. I hope you learned something from this video. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to also like the video, leave a comment, and turn on that notification bell icon to be the first to watch when we upload any new content. For free signals and free setups, do join our free Telegram channel in the description below.